So for the remainder of this module, we're going to be discussing Why Abortion is Immoral by Don Marquis. And as I said, in the next unit, we'll be discussing a paper by Judith Jarvis Thompson, A Defense of Abortion. So this is the pro-life part of this unit, where we're covering the pro-life position. So the ethical pro-life position holds that it's prima facie very wrong to abort an embryo or a fetus of any age. That's Marquis' specific version of the pro-life position. What does prima facie mean? I will come back to that in a few slides. I should say that Marquis never uses the word embryo. He always puts this as fetus, but his view does also imply that it's wrong, it's prima facie very wrong to abort an embryo. So that's a little bit problematic. He isn't clear. His view, it sounds more plausible to say it's wrong to kill a fetus than to say it's wrong to kill an embryo. So that's kind of an issue with his view, but whatever. Basically, any being that exists post-implantation and probably that exists post-fertilization, and including the embryo. So we remember that the ethical pro-choice position holds that, at the very least, that it's ethically permissible to abort an embryo and at least a young fetus, and maybe permissible to abort older fetuses. Okay, so the summary Marquis is as follows. It's prima facie very wrong to kill any adult human, and why is that? Because doing so deprives that being of a valuable future. Well, if you were to kill an embryo or a fetus, you would deprive that embryo or fetus of a valuable future, and it would therefore be prima facie very wrong to kill the embryo or fetus. What makes it wrong to kill? The feature that makes it wrong to kill an adult human is present in the killing of a fetus or embryo, and therefore it's wrong in both cases. And he doesn't talk about this so much, but the right to control what happens in your body does not allow you to kill beings with a valuable future, and so in particular, a woman's bodily autonomy, her right to control what happens in her body, does not include a right to abortion, because the autonomy does not include does not give you the right to kill other beings that have a right to life. So 3 questions we're going to want to ask about Marquis. First, he's going to argue that the standard debate over abortion has a problem, and that's what we'll be talking about in this video. We want to know what he thinks is the problem with the standard debate over abortion. Secondly, we want to know why he thinks it's wrong to kill an embryo or fetus. And thirdly, we want to know, on his view, is contraception morally permissible or not? Contraception being birth control. Before we get into those 3 questions, I have to talk about one other issue, which is, what does this phrase prima facie mean? It's Latin, and it means something like on first look or on the first face of things. So we think that violence is prima facie wrong. What does that mean? Well, here's something we think. In most situations, violence is wrong, but we also think in some situations, such as in self-defense, violence may be or is okay. More generally, we think that in the absence of other factors, violence is wrong. And when we say violence is prima facie, that's what we mean. In the absence of other factors, violence is wrong. So when we say that X is prima facie wrong, what we mean is that X is wrong if there are no other ethical factors. If there are other ethical factors, then we would have to, then the situation may be more complicated, and maybe X is wrong or X is not wrong. So it's Marquis' view is that it's prima facie very wrong to abort an embryo or a fetus of any age. What that means is that unless there are strong ethical considerations in favor of an abortion, it is wrong. So his view could allow, if he's right, it may still be okay to have an abortion if a mother's life is at risk. Maybe it would be okay to have an abortion, because that would be sort of like a self-defense case. But other reasons probably would not be good reasons to, on his view, have an abortion. Okay, so here's a typical anti-abortion argument. A fetus is a human being, therefore abortion is prima facie wrong. Or a fetus is a human life from conception, therefore abortion is prima facie very wrong. A fetus looks like a baby, therefore abortion is prima facie very wrong. A fetus has human genetic code, therefore abortion is prima facie very wrong. What do we think about these arguments? Well, let's ask our question. How do we evaluate arguments in this class? We ask, are they sound? And that means, do they have 2 premises, and are they valid? True premises. Well, so let's ask then, is this argument valid? Obviously not. None of those arguments are valid. they would need some connection, some principle that says something like it's wrong. It's prima facie very wrong to kill a human being. It's prima facie very wrong to kill life from conception. It's prima facie very wrong to kill something that looks like a baby. It's prima facie very wrong to kill something that has human genetic code. You need that other premise to get to the conclusion in a valid way. So these arguments maybe can be, one of them could be expanded into a valid argument, but as they stand, none of them are valid. The argument needs another premise. So we need premise one, a fetus is like this, and then it is always prima facie very wrong to kill a being like that, and therefore it is always prima facie very wrong to kill a fetus. This argument, an argument of this form will be valid, and then the question is, okay, is there some feature that a fetus has that such that it's always very wrong to kill a being with that feature? Is there anything you can plug in for the ellipses, for the 3 dots, that makes both premises true or not? That's the question for is there an argument for the pro-life position? On the other hand, the typical sort of pro-choice argument looks something like this. The only thing it is prima facie very wrong to kill is a rational autonomous being. That should sound like Kant. A fetus is not a rational autonomous being, so it is not prima facie very wrong to kill a fetus. So basically what's going on here is a dispute about moral status. We have these two ideas. If you are blah, 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 then it is wrong to kill you. And if it is wrong to kill you, then you are blah, blah, blah. And then we ask, does the fetus have blah, blah, blah? And the pro-choice and pro-choice sides disagree about, okay, which ways can we fill these in that they come out true? And the pro-choice person says, the pro-life person says, if you're a blah, 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 there's a way to fill that in where the fetus has property blah, blah, blah. And the pro-choice person says, if it is wrong to kill you, then you are blah, blah, blah. The fetus doesn't have any of the blah, blah, blah properties. So the pro-choice person says, yeah, or the pro-life person says, yes, the fetus has one of these properties. And the pro-choice person says, no, they don't have any of these properties. So basically, this is a dispute about the moral status of the zygote, the embryo, and the fetus. The Marquis thinks that the typical properties that people have put forward to fill in blah, 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 they haven't got them right. So let's consider a bunch of different kinds of things. So there are normal adult humans, there are infants and young children, there are non-human animals, there are human cancer cells, and there are adults who lack a valuable future. So that might be someone who is, say, has a terminal disease and who is in unremitting intense agony and will be for the rest of their lives. Such things, unfortunately, do happen. Okay, so it's definitely wrong to kill normal adult humans. Prima facie wrong, because sometimes we can do that, but prima facie wrong. It's wrong to kill normal adult humans. There are many situations under which it's wrong to kill non-human animals. It's wrong to kill animals purely to sort of for the pleasure of watching them die, for example. Maybe hunting is okay, maybe eating meat is okay, but there are situations under which surely it's wrong to kill non-human animals. It's wrong to kill infants and young children. It's wrong to kill at least some adults without a valuable future, maybe all of them. There's some debate about that. What's the debate? Well, perhaps, there's an adult without a valuable future, and that person decides they want to end their life, but they're not able to, and so they ask you to do it for them. Would it, in that situation, be permissible to kill this person? This person lacks a valuable future, wants to die, has asked you in their full capacity to assist them. Can you assist them? Okay. And then finally, human cancer cells. And it's definitely not wrong to kill human cancer cells. So if we look at the standard pro-life position is it's wrong to kill a human life. And the problem with this view, says Marquis, is, okay, well, on the one hand, it would say that it would be wrong to kill human cancer cells, and it's not wrong to kill human cancer cells. And it would definitively say that it's wrong to kill any adult that lacks a valuable future, and that's not at all obvious, and it doesn't tell us why it's wrong to kill non-human animals. So Marquis says, look, this orange blob we've drawn, the human life blob, it should be at least overlap with entirely or be within the green blob, but it's not. And so he thinks, is human life, is it wrong to kill every example of human life? No, not necessarily. And this, if you while it might sound a little bit weird, if you think about it from the perspective of the theories we've been discussing, should make sense. Utilitarianism doesn't think there's anything special about human life. It thinks there's things special about happiness and suffering. And how does that align with being a human life? Well, that's an open question. Now, Kant talks about the principle of humanity, but the principle of humanity is actually specific to rationality and autonomy. It doesn't say there's anything particularly special about human life as such in terms of being human life. What's special about being a human is that you're rational and autonomous, and it's really rationality and autonomy that are special. So, indeed, the Kantian view would say, well, personhood, being a person, being rational and autonomous, that's what makes it wrong to kill you. Marquis says, well, that's not right either, or at least it's not a sufficient account, because it's wrong, for example, to kill infants and young children, but they're not rational, autonomous. They're not fully full people. They're not very good at planning out what they want to do and figuring out what they want their life to be like and so on. They can do it a little bit, but not very much. Similarly, non-human animals are not persons, and yet it seems in at least some situations it's wrong to kill them. And what about adults without a valuable future? They may all be, it seems like you could be a person and yet perhaps fully rational, fully autonomous, and in your rationality and autonomy decide that your life is no longer worth living. Many people who would decide that would be entirely mistaken. We're only talking about situations, again, very extreme situations where you have some sort of terminal disease and there's massive physical pain. Okay, so almost all of you, I'm sure, have very valuable futures, just so we're clear about that. So Marquis thinks that the pro-life and pro-choice positions have symmetrical problems. The problem for the pro-choice argument is that personhood is too narrow. There are things that, on the one hand, cannot be ethically be killed, and yet personhood, they lack personhood. So personhood, if we say, oh, if it's wrong to kill you, you're a person, that's not true. There are things that are not people that it's wrong to kill. On the other hand, the pro-life person has a similar too broad problem. The pro-life person says, oh, it's human life that's valuable, and this seems like, no, there are situations where human life in and of itself is not valuable. And it's also not obvious why human life should be in and of itself is valuable. It seems like there's some other feature, like happiness or suffering or rationality or something that makes human life valuable. So Marquis says, look, in attempts to sort of fix up either of these theories, the sort of human life theory or the rationality sort of Kantian idea, are not going to work. Both of these theories have lots of exceptions on the one hand, but a correct account of what's wrong about killing is not going to have these exceptions. The concepts that we're working with are bad approximations. They're kind of getting it right. They're getting close to what's important, but they're not actually getting onto the thing that makes killing wrong. And so he thinks we need a better account of what makes killing wrong. And once we have that better account, then we can apply that account to the embryos and fetuses and figure out whether or not it's wrong to kill them. And so in the next module, we'll see Marquis' own view. Why does he think that killing is wrong? And it's going to turn out that the reason killing is wrong is this valuable future account, and since embryos and fetuses have valuable futures, it's going to turn out that it's wrong to kill them as well. So that's what we'll see in why he thinks all of that in the next module.